Hi, welcome to One Eye on the Page. I am Scott. It is Five-Year Battle, Agatha Christie, the years 1931 through 1935. We have 10 books to go through this time around, so let's go ahead and get them started. The first book, published in 1931, is the Sitterford Mystery. It is a standalone novel. A Captain Trevelyan is murdered after a group of people in Sitterford have a seance and are informed that he has just been murdered. One of his friends goes in the snow to go to his house and he finds him there murdered. He has left money to family, including his nephew, James Pearson, who is later arrested for his murder. Pearson's fiancée, Emily Trefesus, probably mispronounced that, actually investigates his death along with a newspaper reporter. I like the novel. I think some of it is got some Christie's trademark cheesiness that she can go through in situations that are just kind of like, I'm not sure if that would actually work. Hey, buddy. But I like Emily. I don't particularly like a newspaper guy, but he works well. I think the solution to the mystery isn't. Oh no, don't bother with that, dude. Isn't difficult, but I won't say that I figured out the solution right away. But obviously, this is going to be number one right now. It's our first book. Number two is Peril at N House, published in 1932, is a Hercule Poirot book. Hastings is in it, but Hastings' appearances now are pretty much just sounding boards and the occasional stupid question. He's not as annoying as he was in the first few novels, and he's going to be disappearing for about 30 years after we talk about him next week. Pro believes that somebody is trying to kill Nick Buckley. Nick is a nickname for Magdala Buckley. And he tries to figure out who's doing it before she dies. And it's basically, that's what the entire novel is him trying to figure it out before the hammer comes down. I will say, this is one of the novels that has perhaps a twist ending. And unlike books like The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, where even if you know the twist ending, I think that the book is still enjoyable if you reread it. I think once you get to the twist ending and you go back to reread, it's just not as good a read after you know what happened. And I have to say that a lot of the characters, the suspects, and the intended victim aren't particularly enjoyable to me. So I'm going to put this one under Sitterford. Book number three is the Tuesday Club Murders, or as it was published in the UK, 13 Problems. It is short stories of Miss Marple. I do believe that Miss Marple doesn't work as well in short stories, and I think probably Agatha Christie felt that too, because, let's see, yeah, there are 13 short stories in this book, and she only published 7 other Miss Marple short stories in her career. Basically, most of the short stories are set either in the Tuesday Club, where a bunch of people meet and discuss. Basically, what they're discussing are murders that they've known, and the other people try to solve them. And then the next 6 ones are basically at a dinner where people try to do the same thing. And each and every one of them ends up with Miss Marple solving each of the murders. So that gets a little bit repetitious. And obviously, if we know that Miss Marple, do not jump up there, Belle. There you go. If Miss Marple solves every one of the murders, then listening to all these other people go through their stuff just kind of becomes like, yeah, yeah, shut up. Let Miss Marple solve it so we know what happened. So, the repetition of that kind of becomes a drag. There are a few interesting short stories in here, but honestly, I think if you are wanting to read Miss Marple, stick with the novels. I just, what are you doing, dude? I, I stick with the novels. I just don't think the short stories are particularly interesting. Back off, you're gonna knock my phone over. For right now, I'm going to rank this at the bottom. Number 4, and one of my first times that I'm actually going to be able to show an actual physical book, is Lord Edward Dies. Published in 1933, it is another Hercule Poirot book, another book in which Hastings appears. Hastings doesn't play a part very much. An actress asked Poirot to talk to her husband because she wants to get a divorce. Poirot goes to see the husband, Lord Edgware, and the husband says that he has already agreed and sent a letter to the actress letting her know this. The next day, Inspector Japp tells Poirot that Lord Edgware has been murdered. And so Poirot has to solve the murder. Uh, Gotta be honest, didn't really care for this. It, I think Christie was clumsy here. I think generally she does an amazing job of weaving the plot and setting up the murderer so that when we have the murderer revealed to us, we're like, did not see that coming. But oh, that makes perfect sense. And it makes sense, but I saw it coming. I think her setting it up was done very clumsily, and it's one of those ones where you just see who it's going to be pretty early. So and I know some people rank this fairly high, but I'm actually going to rank this below the Tuesday Club Murders. And then we come, published in 1934, is Murder on the Orient Express. And if you're watching a video about Agatha Christie, you've heard about this book. If not her most famous book, it's definitely up there. It is set on the Orient Express. The Orient Express gets stuck in a snowdrift. Poirot is asked by a man, Samuel Ratchet, to help protect him as he has received death threats. Poirot refuses. That night, Ratchet is murdered, and there are 13 suspects. There are 13 people who are in this train car besides Poirot and the murdered man. And Poirot has to figure out who has done it before the train gets unstuck. It's another one where there's a twist ending. Perhaps her best twist ending, one might think. Just an excellent book. Also, Hastings isn't in it. So you know it's a good book. It is number one. I I have not made this list in order beforehand, but I feel very comfortable saying that this is probably going to be number one by the end of the list. Published in 1934 is Unfinished Portrait, written as Mary Westmacott. It is about a woman who gets divorced, loses a lot of the people she loves in her life, and that has led her to consider, you know what it may lead her to consider, but she runs into an artist who stays up all night and talks to her, and basically she tells him about her life. Now, there are two things that I feel are going against this book for me. One, it kind of follows the same steps as Giant Spread, the other Westmacott book that I have read, going over the main protagonist's life as a child. For what purpose? Who knows? I don't think there's anything in all those years of them growing up that couldn't have been taken care of in a few paragraphs or a brief flashback. And it's annoying to have to go back over 50 to 100 pages of their youth, especially after we get, same as in Giant Spread, oh, set in present time. Now we're going to go back 20, 30 years and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Second, it kind of borrows pretty heavily, at least the setup, from the Mr. Satterthwaite and Mr. Quinn short story. I believe it's A Man at Sea. Oh, The Man from the Sea, which I believe accomplished more in that short story than this entire novel does. I've only read two Westmacott books so far, but generally I'm not finding them enjoyable. So I'm going to put this one at the bottom under Lord Edgeworth Dies. Book number 7 is Why Didn't They Ask Evans, published in 1934, is another standalone novel about a young man named Bobby Jones, same name as the famous golfer that I didn't know and probably most people didn't know before, who encounters a dying man on the golf course who says, why didn't they ask Evans? Jones, along with his friend, Lady Frances Derwent, try to figure out what happens. Like some other Christie novels, there's a lot of ridiculousness that goes on. But honestly, the two main characters are so fun, and how they encounter everything that they do and their attitude about it really makes us a fun read, quite honestly. So I really liked it, and then one of that I only read when I went through my entire Agatha Christie read through. So I probably read it a year and a half ago. It's the first time I've ever read it. I am going to put this right now. It's going to be right under Murder on the Orient Express. Book number 8 is Mr. Parker Pyne Detective, published in 1934. Also published in the UK as Parker Pyne Investigates. It's a collection of 12 short stories about Parker Pyne, who is a detective, also at one point a government official. He's not very likable. And I think that's a lot of what I don't like about these short stories is the detective. some of the stories are actually very good. At least two or three of them are much more memorable than any of the stories in the Tuesday Club Murders. But were I have to choose between Mr. Parker Pine Detective and Miss Marple, I would choose Miss Marple. This short story collection does introduce us to Miss Lemon and Ariadne Oliver, the author, who will play a larger part in future Poirot works. Um, but again, Pine just isn't an interesting detective to me, and probably not really to Christie either. He only appears in two other stories, and those are stories that are probably better known when they were written as Poirot stories. This one I'm gonna put at the bottom. Yeah, I think it's even the Westmacott book is better than this. Number 9 is Three Act Tragedy, published in 1935. This is a Poirot mystery, no Hastings. It also heavily features Mr. Satterthwaite, a character I like very much. Mr. Quinn is not in this novel. Uh, Sir Charles Cartwright has a dinner party in a Reverend Babington suddenly dies after drinking a cocktail. There is no poison detected in the glass, though. So Cartwright, Satterthwaite, and her name, Hermione Egg, Lifton Gore, tried to solve the crime with Poirot as a consultant. I like a lot of this novel because I like the characters, but I don't particularly care for the mystery or the reveal of the murderer. It's the type of reveal that happens a lot in Christie novels, and I don't think it's particularly a twist ending, but it kind of points that way a little bit. But it's just if it wasn't for the characters, particularly Mr. Satterthwaite and Egg, uh, I think I would rank this fairly low. I am going to rank it above Unfinished Portrait, though. And finally, Death in the Clouds, also published in 1935, another Poirot mystery, no Hastings, a murder on an airplane, a wasp, and then a blowpipe, which is found near Procy, which makes him want to solve the crime. Uh, I like Poirot quite a bit in this novel. I like some of the characters quite a bit. Uh, it's another one where the murderer, I don't think it. I will just say that this type of murder has become a bit boring to me. Um, because it's not uncommon in Christie. Now, I say that I know I'm only in the year 1935, but I say that as somebody who's read all her work, so I'm perhaps unfairly being biased against this book for future books that I've read. But that's just the way it is. I do think I think it's just below Three Act Tragedy. So, our final rankings for the years 1931 through 1935 are at number 10, Mr. Parker Pine Detective. At number 9, Unfinished Portrait. Number 8, Death in the Clouds. Number 7, Three Act Tragedy. Number 6, Lord Edgware Dies. Number 5, the Tuesday. Yeah, number 5, the Tuesday Club Murders. Number 4, Peril at N House. Number 3, the Sitterford Mystery. Number 2, number 2, Why Didn't They Ask Evans? And number 1, not really much of a mystery, The Murder on the Orient Express. So next week we have the years 1936 through 1940 with another possible obvious number 1, I believe, and Then There Were None was published in 1939. But I don't recall all the other books that are published during that time, so maybe another one takes the top spot. Also, the last appearance in novels of Captain Hastings until Curtin in 1975. So, unfortunately, he will still appear in short stories, so we'll have to deal with him. I suffer, you suffer, we all suffer because of Hastings. That is our lot in life. So please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time.